Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He died after running into a dead-end tunnel, whimpering and crying and screaming all the way. He died in a vicious and violent way, as a coward, running and crying. He died like a dog. He died like a coward. Our dog was hurt, actually. Our canine, as I call it a dog, a beautiful dog, a talented dog, was injured and brought back. I would say, where's al-Baghdadi? I want al-Baghdadi. But he died in a ruthless, vicious manner. And it was brutal, but it was over.
Max Boot of the Washington Post summed up the president's remarks in an op-ed this way, writing, quote, President Trump has a preternatural ability to turn any occasion, no matter how solemn or important, into a ridiculous, risible spectacle. He did it again Sunday in announcing the death of al-Baghdadi when he began to ad-lib about what happened near Idlib, Syria. He treated the world to his usual blend of braggadocio and bluster, dishonest and distasteful in equal measure. We're happy to have back with us again retired four-star U.S. Army General Barry McCaffrey, decorated combat veteran from Vietnam, a former battlefield ground commander in the Persian Gulf, and these days among our military analysts. General, before we take up the topic of Donald Trump, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your reaction to the death of Baghdadi and this military mission.
Well, I think it was a significant blow to ISIS. This fellow had tremendous spiritual impact on their organization. He had taken them international with various branches in Africa and Afghanistan and elsewhere. So I think taking him out will pull apart that compartmented organization for some period of time. Maybe there'll be a succession struggle also. So I think it was an incredible raid by JSOC. JSOC, Joint Special Operational Command, run by an Air Force three-star Scott Howell out of Fort Bragg, an air, ground, sea trained element, incredible technology, hand-selected people. They are so good, it is mind-boggling. They're a parallel universe of capability. To get in there, get them on the ground, bring him out, take two main detainees with him. Just a remarkable, successful operation.
And now to Donald Trump. His choice of words, the announcement, the way it was announced, his choice to take questions. I heard both the head of DOD and the head of JCS say they don't know where he's getting these details about how he was crying and whimpering. What did you make of that aspect of this?
Well, look, I've been watching national security issues for a long time now. I'd be astonished if he didn't make that up whole cloth. He thought he was adding, deterrence to the whole operation by making fun of this guy, a coward whimpering. It's possible, I suppose, those three poor children who were with him may have been crying and whimpering as they were in a giant gunfight with a trained attack dog after him. But, Baghdadi, no way. These are violent, desperate men fighting for their lives. They're the cruelest people on the face of the earth. That never happened, in my judgment.
What do you make of the analysis that we could not have done this without the Kurds, and yet at the same time, this issue was carried out despite the president's action vis-a-vis the Kurds?
Well, that was a remarkably impulsive piece of bad judgment by the President of the United States to unilaterally essentially tell the Turks, yes, you can take out the Kurdish frontier people. You can dump 2.5 million refugees, Arabs, back into Syria, and we won't oppose you. What he should have done, obviously, was tell them, look, I'm going to move 500 more U.S. troops up there, and the Turks would have never crossed the border. The Turks have also been arguably supportive of ISIS operatives in the past. They let thousands of European jihadists come through Turkey and get into the fight in Syria. So the president's, laudatory comments about Russia were astonishing. His laudatory comments about Turkey. I think the Kurds were 95% of the fight against the caliphate. They took it down, they paid a huge price, and we abandoned them. And that lesson has been absorbed by many other allies and enemies in the Middle East and elsewhere.
A question I asked earlier in the broadcast, how unnatural was it for you to hear the first thanks went out to the Russians, and it turns out the Russians knew about the raid before Pelosi and Schumer?
Well, it's like the world turned upside down. The Russians are a second-tier power with a ton of nuclear weapons and oil in the ground. Their health systems is terrible. Their economy is terrible. They don't have much strategic import. Putin is very clever. He's batting well above his weight class. He's a huge threat to anybody that lives in the periphery of Russia, whether it's Georgia or Poland or the Baltic states or the Ukraine. He seized Crimea. He's had his forces attack U.S. military forces in Syria. This guy's a thug, a dictator. So why Mr. Trump would be laudatory in trying to cement relations with the Russians is very bizarre.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.